Oh my gosh. I can't believe this. Yo, I can't believe this. Yo, I cannot believe this. It's like, oh my god. I can't believe this. Yo, I can't believe this. Yo, I cannot believe this. It's just, oh my, am I streaming? Fuck. Oops. Why is it fucking, really? Just gonna do this shit? That's not what I meant. We're gonna do this. I don't care if I'm streaming or not. And this could, oh yeah, pause. That's what I'm, okay, you see? That's what happens. Hold up. Oh my god. I can't believe this. Yo, I can't believe this. Yo, I cannot believe this. It's just, oh my god. I can explain. Alright, I think I'm good enough. Who the fuck liked this video already? Am I who the fuck is that? Alright, I think I'm good enough. Bruh. Who the fuck liked this video already? Shit, is that no? Stop echoing me. Anyway, don't ask why I'm making this. Don't ask why I'm streaming this at 12 or out of all times. Because I can, and it's been on my mind since the moment I uploaded this video. And I don't remember exactly what I said in this video necessarily, but I already know some bullshit. So I'm gonna just go into it like, yeah, I'm just going to it because I already know I'm gonna say some bullshit. I'm just correct whatever the hell. Hey guys, welcome. Bad takes, some shit have been said in this video because I know. Alright, so I'm fucking ranking. I'm ranking shit because I'm very late to this ranking. I'm not doing it for any other video other than this. But like, I just felt like doing it because I have no idea. I'm bored. I don't care. I thought, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna rank what I think. So I was like, fuck it. I'm just rank Beatles albums, worst to best. You know, right? Type shit. Like, there's on some chill shit. They didn't make that many albums, but I could have chose more albums. They didn't. I decided to just go with the UK releases. You know what? I'm just instead of everything like including the American release. So I was like, nah, fuck it, that's too much, And most of them already have the same songs. I'm gonna just start. Hold up, I'm gonna start all the way from their first to their last album. Now, Please Please Me is the first album they ever came out with. I feel like it was a great starter album, mostly because even though it was just unpredictable. It was like, you know what, fuck it, let's just have fun. It was more fun. Let's have fun, bitch. Let's have fun. They had some bops on here, like, I forgot. How the fuck you forget, like, bro? Twist and Shout. Bro. Yeah? I thought the album overall was... That's it? No. That's it? Motherfucker, is that it? Twist and Shout is all I got? Bitch? Twist and Shout? From me to you? Do you want to know a secret? Fucking... Please Please Me? Like, the title track? Come on now, there's way more to Twist and Shout. Now, I know Twist and Shout is a banger, but there's way more to that. Like, oh my god. See, that's already red flag number one for what it was. But it's in Beatles terms, like for Beatles standards, I'm not sure. I don't know. Compared to these fucking giants over here. Yeah, it's better. Sure. I would say... Shit. I say C. Alright, you know what? C is... I still stand by that C. Hold up. Oh, I can't do it. Never mind. C. The C The C, I still stand by that, but only to add a couple things is like, yeah, it's their debut, so it's gonna feel like a debut of like, so it's not gonna be like the most outlandish ideas out on the table, but it's like they weren't aiming for that anyway. They were just aiming for the big time success, So easy, fun, easy listening songs, and which serves to their benefit and also to their detriment. So I agree with the C. There's some great cuts on there, but there's also some clear filter that could have been like shaved off, even though they recorded this whole album in literally like one day. So it's not like they cared that much anyway. But yeah, still stand by that C. It won't be long, yeah. Their second album. Wait, which one? Why was the transition so short? What was I doing? Was their second? Yep, anyway. This one's the second album with the Beatles. This shit bops hard. Hard. I wanna be your man. But like seriously, not seriously. With the Beatles, it was pretty much like Please Please Me Part 2. And I mean, I'm not sure where to put this, but I think it's better than Please Please Me. Even though it didn't have as many hits as Please Please Me, like for example, it has many hits like Please Please Me, Love Me Do, Twist and Shout. I forgot it doesn't have Fuck Me Do on there. Like these are the three, like the albums that really built up Beatlemania. We'll get to that later, so I think... Bro, get to it now! They're still experimenting and still covering songs from other artists from, like, the 50s. Right. And I think they pulled them off way better than the original. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. You know what, I think B is good for this. I think. See, I half agree. I half agree and half disagree because, like, on the covers part, yeah, there's so many covers, and that became that was a huge problem for, like, a majority of their early 60s output. But at the same time, like, yeah, the covers, some of them were hits, some of them were misses. Like, you get hits like Long Tall Sally, which wasn't included on any album, but then you get some shit like what was it? I don't think Roll Over Beethoven was a cover. But yeah, you get some shit. I don't know, I forgot which track it was in particular, but there was a couple of covers that just did not hit or even get anywhere close to the original. And that's what brings this album down for me. Like, I don't think I stand by the B rating. Like, if anything, I say I put it at a C now, because this album has only soured on me throughout the years, even though I still like the tracks I like. But I can only say that Please Please Me may be better. Please Please Me may have the more cohesive feel of an album. Like, it feels more cohesive than with the Beatles. Mainly because there's less covers on there than with the Beatles, because like there's covers on pretty much 40% on, there's like, at least this album right here is basically 40% covers, which with that I think is what brings us down like a notch. But the original cuts but made by the band themselves, written by the band, are some of the best shit, and I say is better than some of the highlights on Please Please Me, but the covers bring it down a bunch. So it really just it still felt like a rushed job though, as just like Please Please Me, but Please Please Me had little like more cohesive moments. So I don't know, I might bring it down to a C. Because, those covers were just a bunch of filler. I think B. You know what I'm saying? I'm feeling good B on that. Not anymore. That shit was fire. And buy me love. The album that set it off. A Hard Day's Night. I have this on vinyl. And goddamn, this album kickstarted everything. This kickstarted Beatlemania to the fullest. I mean the fullest. I mean, it did kickstart it, but it didn't start it completely with that album. I mean, it was already building up with these two albums, but, I see what you're cooking. Like, you can't talk about Beatlemania without referencing this album, because this is what started Beatlemania. Right? Jesus Christ, they're struggling.
Anybody thinks I love the Beatles for them, and I'll always love them. Even when I'm 105 and an old grandmother, I'll love them.
Everyone went crazy. That bitch is probably dead by now. Ain't that some shit? Anyway, for this album, I mean, like, who wouldn't? This shit had fucking... It was just a fun-ass album. Like, they really, like, reinforced pop, like 60s pop with this fucking album. True. And how it was supposed to sound like. True. For example, like, I can't even remember. Tell Me Why was really good. A Hard Day's Night, the title track, and then make myself a little more quiet because this is like, fuck, I don't know who's, and I love her. The real me talking. There's so many favorites on this album. I want to say this is my favorite album, but I wouldn't say that yet. This album just slaps so hard. Like, I feel like this is a really good pop album for what it is. It's amazing. Hold on, I'm missing what I'm talking about. Hold on, let me go back. What did I say? What the fuck I say? A Hard Day's Night, the title track, and then fuck, what was that? And I Love Her. There's so many favorites on this album. I want to say this is my favorite album, but I wouldn't say that yet. This album just slaps so hard. Like, yeah, it still does. Like, it's a really good pop album for what it is. It's amazing. I wouldn't say amazing, but chill out. To be honest, A for amazing. All right, but I'd say this would be the perfect album. I'd say this would be borderline S tier material if it was just the first side. If it was just the first side and it wasn't the second side, because the second side, there is a lot of slippage there. There's a lot of, obvious filler and a lot of, derivative tracks there. Like, I'll Cry Instead, and You Can't Do That. Well, actually, I'll Cry Instead. But there's a lot more forgettable stuff on the... Like, that's only because the first half is so damn, like, punchy. It hits so much force. They put all the bangers on the first track, on the first half, that... It kind of just makes the latter half feel less in comparison, which almost there. It was almost perfect, but yeah, I agree with this this album. I still love it. I'm like, how can you go wrong with Tell Me Why, A Hard Day, A Hard Day's Night, Christ. Tell Me Why, Should Have Known Better, And I Love Her, Happy Just to Dance With You, If I Fell, like... The album had it all, and it really sounded different from these two, even though it's still that pop sound the pop flavor that they kept kicking in with the, Yeah, and I agree with, definitely with that, and along with that, it does sound like it does sound like those first two albums, but sound like what they did good on those first two albums was just built upon and just expanded into more, like, and how, like, because this is like. There's barely any covers on this album specifically, like, so they really try to focus more on creating, their own catchy melodies and songs and stuff that could stand on their own without needing like covers to fill out the rest of the album with, because they ran out of ideas, which makes it even better, which makes it infinitely better in comparison. If I say so myself, they came with. But they put in like a different style every new song. Mr. I'm alive. Also came out 64 like these two and 63. This why they dropped this 64. Yeah, why they dropped this so close together? I'd say this album was, if my opinion, I say this album's underrated as hell. Like, and the reason why is because, like, a lot of people like to put down this album and not mention it whenever they talk about the Beatles, straight up, like, even talk about the Beatles. And if they, which True. I fucking despise, because this album has gems on here. Like, this album has some hidden gems in here that people that just go unappreciated. And, like, No Reply, Mr. Moonlight I like on there. It was even though it wasn't their song, I feel like they cover that song really good, and it was like... Wait, isn't? I forgot who wrote that song, but, And, who else? Oh, yeah, 8 Days a Week. You can't go wrong with that song. Jesus, dude. Apparently not people like this album. Not a lot of people like this album, because it wasn't like A Hard Day's Night. Because people just don't... People just don't straight up... Just don't mention this album because it's not pop. They were experiencing something else, which I feel like they did too early. in order to go like with these, if they wanted to experiment like outside of pop like these three. They were going real folk on this, and like folk pop, I don't know. It was, yeah, I say it's kind of confusing, but I say it's a B. Like, people did this album wrong. Now, for that, I'd say I agree with basically all I said, even though I don't know if I'll put it at a B. I might bring it down to a C. Maybe it's teetering on going back to a C, because I don't know. It still remains pretty forgettable. But anyway, yeah, basically it felt more like, I don't know if it felt like a throwaway, because it felt like what they really wanted to do. Like, they've been wanting to do this, transition into this folk direction ever since they started growing this, obsession to Bob Dylan's work at the same time, because that was at the same time, there was 1964, which means that was also Bob Dylan's blow up year. So that was when Bob Dylan really started taking over, and the Beatles caught that, and they wanted to incorporate that into their own shit, like, and which it hits on some parts. You could tell the Bob Dylan influence on almost all these tracks, but some of them still have the same old, Beatles flair and stuff. It still has that Beatles shit, you know what I'm saying, type shit. But I wake up in a world where the Beatles never existed. Me, check out this song I just wrote. I begin playing Obla Di Obla Da without having first build up years of goodwill. Crowd of people. Wow, this sucks ass. Yeah, Obla Di Obla Da is one of the songs of all time. Out of all the songs of all time, that one sure is one of them. Hold that for a sec. Oh my god! I can't believe this. Yo, I can't believe this. Anyway, so what was I saying? Yeah, basically the Beatles just went full, well, not full Bob Dylan, but half Bob Dylan. They went Bob Dylan, and a little too early into their careers they went Bob Dylan, but at least they tried. Basically, like people did this album wrong. Help! I need somebody help! Alright, moving on to 1965. I think this one came, yeah. Goddamn. I don't even know what to say about Help. This came out in 65, and I feel like this... Fuck, I don't know. Shit. I feel... Shit. Goddamn. I think this goes in motherfucking B. But I wouldn't say that yet. Mostly because fucking, Help. They went back to their pop roots with, like these three. It sounded more like A Hard Day's Night too, in some cases, but also sounded like Beatles for Sale. It sounded like these two pretty much, because they still didn't leave the folk sound, because they didn't want to leave that alone, because I feel like they could do it right, which they didn't do correctly in this album. Spoiler alert, they didn't. They were still experimenting on that album, which in which they stopped experimenting on this album. They just went back to their Hard Day's Night roots and just went more pop, you know. I mean, Help, Act Naturally. I mean, Ringo's singing on that. I mean, yeah, Ringo's singing on that. These are like, I think these albums are where Ringo is singing with the Beatles and Help. Ringo should have sung more on these albums, especially the earlier albums, because he has such a good voice. Even though he's their drummer. Well, I mean, he does. It's not like he doesn't sing at all. I'm pretty sure he's sung on at least all of these albums except Well, maybe he has sung on A Hard Day's Night, but I mean, none of the songs he sings on. All the songs he sings on are basically all just like throwaways from John and Paul that they just give to Ringo. Like, hey, Ringo, you want some? Like, like Act Naturally for once. Which, I don't know. Maybe Ringo did write that by himself. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe not. So Paul and John always loves to give Ringo the fucking throwaway tracks. And that's why. I mean, yeah. But, again, hold on. Let me finish. But, like, I say B. Wow, B? Okay, I still think B. But overall, yes. It's like, Help was like, it has a lot of great highlights that highlight... Whoa, hold on a second. Let me rewind that, Buster. It has a lot of, like, crowning, like, moments that highlight the Beatles' best, you know, achievements. Like, it literally has Yesterday on it. This early in their career. Like, well, not this early, but, you know, in this part of their career, they're still in the Beatlemania era, but they still come out with a fucking classic like Yesterday and Help. And I even like some of the stuff like, you know, you gotta lose that girl, and even, oh wait, I gotta finish it. You gotta lose that girl, you gotta lose. Anyway, and even the old Bob Dylan ass song for what was it? I know John made it. This Bob Dylan ass sounding song was like, "Hey, you've got to hide your love away." Like, bro, John was sucking Bob Dylan's, like, he was on his meat. John was on Bob Dylan's meat back then. It was crazy. Like, the meat writing was insane. Like, he really tried to sound, he not only tried to write like Bob Dylan, but he tried to sound like him to a T. But yeah, this album, like, has some of the best highlights in the Beatles' whole career. Even in their Beatlemania period, when they were just putting out straight pop songs, they still knew how to crack out a song like Yesterday. So at least they were already hinting us what they would do later in their career. But it still has the problem of the obvious filler bringing down the album as well. It's like some songs that just doesn't need to be there because, you know, they don't want to become full album artists yet. That's for this album. Drummer. That's where this album comes in. Rubber Soul. Right? Like, S.A.B. Rubber Soul. Goddamn. Fucking amazing. Alright. Am I gonna fuck this up? This album, I feel like, you know, I'm not even gonna spoil or whatever. I'm not gonna spoil. This album is so fucking great. Like almost every song is including. Oh, brother, that's when I lost the footage. Of course. Review on Rubber Soul. Nice Rubber job, Soul. Me. That's my goddamn favorite. I still don't know how the hell that happened. Like, how the hell I lose the footage like that? That was so stupid. Like, Jesus like, Christ. All of them in this. I don't know if I accidentally stopped recording or it was just. I don't know. Whatever. Rubber Soul. That's my goddamn favorite motherfucking Beatles album. Like, out of all of them in the discography, like, that one tops it all. I mean, it has it all. Like, hell, catchiness, trippiness. This is when they were starting to stray away from the goddamn Beatlemania, lovey-dovey poppy shit. We're moving on to experimental, manly shit. Well, not that's really manly, but you know. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. You know, they strayed away from the old-ass pop sound they kept during the fucking Help album. You can see how much progression they made. Now compare Help to Rubber Soul, because that shit came out in the same year. It was 1965, because you'll know what the differences are. Like, the Beatles went completely folk on them. they started using George started using the sitar. I think that's what it's called. They started really getting experimental with the drugs they were starting to get on, which we get on to later. And there's so much shit I like on there. It's such a damn vibe. And I just love the studio aesthetic and the sounds they were making, that were made for this album. I just love the studio aesthetic that they had on this.
Right.
It was just like a whole album was creating when everyone came up with ideas, except for Ringo, because he never got to perform a song they wrote, because John and Paul will never let him, because it was always like too goofy.
Like I said,
except for Octopus's Garden.
Yeah, apparently that stayed.
But yeah, I mean, like Nowhere Man, the fucking harmony in that bitch, the harmony on Nowhere Man is just pure bliss. That's all. That enough said. What goes on? Well, actually, you know what? Never mind. Never mind about Ringo. Ringo actually sung on What Goes On, but he didn't write it. What goes on
your heart?
That song was written by John in like '63, which just came out in '65. Girl is definitely my favorite fucking song on there.
Still is. Even though Michelle's really close.
Damn. That's definitely my favorite song on there. It's definitely like my favorite Beatles song of all time. You was talking about a girl he would be searching for, and eventually it would be Yoko Ono. Yay.
Which is crazy, because he was dating Cynthia at the time.
In my life, that's just... yes. Michelle by Paul. Oh my god, Paul went off. Especially when off the French. Paul went off the French. Oh my god, yes. That French makes me a wet. I mean, what? No.
Yes, no, you meant that shit. Shut up. You meant it. You meant all of that.
Looking through you, that shit was messy as fuck, but I liked it. I think I liked the messiness of it, though. It was really messy. Like, if you actually hear the track, you hear a whole bunch of random ass shit going on in that bitch. Like, you won't even know what was going on. Like, you hear someone drop a tambourine in the middle of that shit. You literally hear someone drop a tambourine in the middle of the fucking recording.
I mean, it's not that crazy noticeable.
They kept that in the song.
It's still there.
But hey, it was still good. And I think that was what made it good.
Alright, anyway, I'm gonna just fucking finally chime in, because I feel like I've been going on way too long. But yeah, basically, the Beatles finally decided to, take the extra step and actually, like, make an album, like, use the studio to their advantage. And it worked. It absolutely worked. It sounded completely different from Help, which is crazy to think about this album coming out in the same year as Help, because they sound like two different albums from two different artists, damn near. Like, there's no, like, the amount of improvement, like, sound-wise is crazy, because the amount of low end they started tinkering with, and, like, the amount of space, like, they used a great amount of space and low end that really made this album unique from the rest, and from their previous output, especially Help, and it really did. And I feel like that's what made this album and I feel like that's what made this age so much better than Help and everything else that came before it. And that's why this album is considered the benchmark for the Beatles' renaissance, as you'd say. Well, not renaissance, but yeah, sort of renaissance. Like, yeah, I'd say. And I still have my favorite tracks, like, In My Life, Girl, Michelle. Like, the more intimate tracks, those are my favorite ones there. Like, it's so minimal, but it's perfect. Its minimalism is perfect. I couldn't imagine any other way. And Norwegian Wood, and hell, even shit like Run For Your Life, which is probably the worst song on the album objectively, but it still catchy enough. Like, but it's still, what in the hell even is that song? You'll know. But yeah, like, this is obviously, you could tell, like, you don't have to read it, you just have to listen to it to notice the sea change in the Beatles. whole creative direction with this album. Like this was officially it's like the start at the end of the Beatlemania Beatles, but it still had hints of it, you know. So yeah, great. Still great. It's still one of my. It's still almost on my. It's still hard to say whether this is still my favorite album because Revolver has been growing on me more and more over the years, and every listen I give to Revolver, the album just gets better for me. We'll get to that later, you know. But for a long time for now, like for a pretty long time, this was my favorite Beatles album by all stretch of the word. Like on all fronts, this was my favorite Beatles album.
That's definitely
shit is fire.
I don't give a f.
A.
Never mind, that's A actually. I'm just be real and just not be biased. I'm gonna put that A.
Nigga, that's an S. Oh god, Revolver.
Let me tell you. To Revolver. Let me tell you.
John looks so high in that picture, it's crazy.
Revolver and Saint fucking Charles. This shit took a whole ass turn for the Beatles. The Beatles' music. The Beatles' career, nigga. Like,
nigga. Hold on, first of all, you see fucking Paul probably has my favorite facial expressions in this whole album cover. Like, he has so many, like, bruh, what's wrong? But George in this picture right here, like, this tiny little George is fucking crazy. But this Paul, what's going on with you there, Paul? That looks like a meme image I'd see on Pinterest. That looks like a reaction image I'd see on Pinterest or on Twitter or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this shit was kind of... See, again, with the Beatles being ahead of their time. Anyway.
Like, no one knew what was going on when they came out with this.
The Beatles invented reaction images.
When John
official
blurted out fucking, we're more popular than Jesus shit. Controversy. Them American niggas got triggered by that shit. And even got the KKK involved. They almost got killed like how many times when they were on tour when he said that, after he said that? Oh my god. But anyway, they really went experimental on this. Back to the album. They really went experimental on this fucking album. They went full off with the ideas. Everyone came up with ideas. Everyone. Like, they were completely free to do whatever the fuck they want in the studio. As long as they got George Martin with them and everyone else.
True.
They just create a whole bunch of sounds that normally you don't hear on the
at the
Beatles
time.
record. They created new shit. They really, like, Taxman, that was George. That was George's song, and I'm only sleeping here, there, and everywhere. Makes me go to sleep. Apparently that
it's crazy how I'm only sleeping just won a Grammy just recently for best music video. Like, I just need to point that out.
That track was inspired by God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. Or not the Beach Boys, Brian Wilson, as he did all the fucking work in the Beach Boys. Fucking Mike Love's bitch ass.
Wow.
Seriously,
Wow.
right now, everyone knows that Mike Love's a bitch.
Wow. I'm just saying it outright, bro. Chill.
An unpopular track.
Chill. I mean, I'm not wrong though.
Good Day Sunshine
To this
was,
day.
not
Brian
much
Wilson
of a
carried.
track, but I still love it. I love it to death. All right. But Beatles fans do not love it. They fucking named that as like the least favorite or least good. For No One, shit. I don't even want to get into all that. We already know. The artwork makes me nut. All right, that's it.
Yeah.
Enough about the artwork. And it just sounded like drugs. Well, not really. It was just this huge ass build up. I just knew I knew it was gonna be this huge build up to like,
bro, get on with it. Quit yapping.
Sgt. Pepper. But I also didn't know. At the same time. I'd say this is probably their best album, if we're being real. Until we get to Sgt. Pepper, then we'll probably know. Shit. I don't know. It's still a huge debate now whether it's better than whether Sgt. Pepper is better than Revolver, but I'll get to that in a bit.
It's Revolver.
So I'll put that at fucking S because come on now, it's fucking Revolver by the Beatles. Listen to it. Listen to it. You won't be sorry. And by the way, this is when the group really got interested in the motherfucking LSD and shit and everything and the weed. So that really took a toll on the album in a good way. What the hell are you talking about, bro? I need to stop talking. First of all, I agree. Still their best album, unless on a good day it's their best album. Well, not on a good day, but on a different day it'll be Rubber Soul. On a different day it'll be Revolver, and on another different day it'll be Abbey Road. And on a kooky quirky day it'll be Magical Mystery Tour. But let's not get into that. But yeah, Revolver still might be objectively, in my opinion, Beatles' best album. Better. It's not my favorite, but it's really, really close to my favorite Beatles album. Cause that's the whole thing with Revolver. It's either between Revolver and Rubber Soul. And I think I'll just settle on this. Rubber Soul is my favorite, my personal favorite, but objectively Revolver is better. Which I'm okay with that. Like, yeah, this was the Beatles when the psychedelics started kicking in, and they started implementing it into their music. Like the whole psych trend was becoming really popular in the 60s. Then, you know, the whole counterculture shit and like the whole hippie shit, you know what I'm saying? And which would only be more prevalent on their next record. But yeah, they basically took what they took what worked on Rubber Soul and just expanded leaps and bounds. They just worked on it even harder. They got even crazier. They started getting instruments that wouldn't even be able to be used in a live setting, which is why they didn't really tour this album's core tracks as much, because it just couldn't unless like they get the whole damn unless they get like more like musicians in there, which people only came there for the Beatles. They didn't come here for extra musicians. But that's pretty much why, and that's why they stopped touring at this time as well. That's the main reason why they stopped touring in the same year, because, you know, they couldn't really, you know, they were just done with it. First of all, they were done with that shit, because, come on now, like 50 minutes of for like 50 minutes, like, come on now, with no earbuds, you know, all that, you know, fucking, come on. And the fact that they couldn't, and just not just that, but the fact they can't really perform these songs live. Like, these are mainly studio songs. Like, there's no way you could pull this off live unless you really get, like, unless you really lock in and get, like, spend the extra money. Which are the Beatles, you probably could, but they just didn't feel like it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's a damn S for me. Fuck with me. Fight me. That's their best record. I don't give a fuck what you say. That's their best shit. I don't want to hear nothing from you.
Tonight, Mr. Kite is topping the bill.
Here we go. Sergeant Pepper, goddamn. It felt like a goddamn drug trip. Even if you never took drugs, it felt like what it would be like if you took drugs. Like, just listen to that shit. A Day in the Life. I don't even know if that's on the album. But yeah, A Day in the Life. Shit. Oh, wait, I forgot an album. Shit. I just noticed I forgot an album. Alright, I added one more album because I feel like that was missing.
Really?
But anyway, back to Sgt. Pepper. So Sgt. Pepper... Sgt. Pepper was really fucking instrumental. This is the first time they went full psychedelic. And I feel like they left that off on Revolver with the psychedelicness, but goddamn.
Psychedelicness.
This shit was heavy. This shit was heavy. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Yeah?
Fuck, my mind went blank. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Benefit of Mr. Kite. Dr. Kite, what was it? I think that was...
No, it's Mr. Kite, idiot. Anyway.
A Day in the Life.
Yeah, I really had nothing to say for Sgt. Pepper. I feel like
of the title track.
I have a feeling I didn't know what really much to say about Sgt. Pepper, like, on the spot at the time, but I feel like if I would have, like, put more thought into... If I would have, like, waited a little bit more, like, I would have had way more to say. I would have come up with a more cohesive thought on Sgt. Pepper, because it's not easy to discuss this album, because there's so much going on in it. So I just started listing off my favorite tracks, because it's like, I didn't want to go through that dumbass shit. I was lazy as fuck.
And they went full tilt. Like this is like the
Fuck does that mean?
To say, it was definitely unlike. This is how a band evolves from making straight up nothing but pop. These albums full on pop to something like this, which is a goddamn art in music form, literal art. I'm like, how can you not put this in S tier? That's a goddamn S.
I mean, okay, bruh. I know I said barely anything for Sgt. Pepper, which is like kind of doing it injustice. Like, that's doing it very injustice. Like, hold on, go back a second. I agree with S, even though it has kind of grown a little off of me over the years. Like, I don't hold Sgt. Pepper to as high of an authority as I used to, because I just grown to like the other works, like Revolver and Abbey Road, a little more. But I still admire, like, I still respect the ambitiousness and like all the experimentation and the balls to the wall mentality that, you know, they went with on Sgt. Pepper, and making this a cohesive, somewhat, you know, sort of concept album, like a real artistic statement, you know. And I still respect that choice, you know. But the songs itself, outside of all that and all of its legacy, is still like amazing. Like, it's still some of the best shit you'll ever hear of the 60s. I feel like it's like the biggest embodiment of the late 60s you could ever get, especially 67. So they basically doubled down on what worked on Revolver and just went 2 times as, you know, harder on the psych influence, and started, you know, really getting into like sort of like, you know, just very off-kilter territory, like super off-kilter territory. Like, you can't really explain this. Like, they made a whole fictional band, first of all, and just, I don't know, it's like, see, that's what I mean. I may have to come back to it, but yeah, it's like they made a whole fictional band. Like, it's nowhere near the other albums. So it's like, I gotta think about it again. You know, I'll skip that whole point I was about to make. But yeah, they basically doubled down on Revolver and turned up the fucking juice and made a whole concept album just because they could, and they were high as fuck. And it really feels like larger than life. Like, it feels like a whole entire orchestra and a whole entire, like, it feels like a play. It sounds like a play too. Like, if Revolver couldn't be played live, then this definitely couldn't be played live, because like, they used the studio more than they ever would. Like, some of the shit you'll never be able to pull off live, and which is why they made this album. Like, benefit of Mr. Kite, you know, A Day in the Life, yes, the title track, and even fucking She's Leaving Home, like, some of the best shit you'll ever hear. Like, some of the best, like, the best Beatles songs, like, especially A Day in the Life. Like, you just can't get any better than A Day in the Life. Like, I feel like that is, I wouldn't say the Beatles at their peak, but the Beatles, like, I don't know, maybe their career, like, I don't know what the right word is. It's just good ass shit. Perfect, damn near. Like, you can't replicate that shit ever again. That is a one in a lifetime song right there. So yeah, I basically, what else did I say? In music form, literal art. I'm like, how can you not put this in S tier? Yeah, like, literal art. Like, the only problem I have with this album, I'd say, that really keeps this down for me, is not including Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields Forever on this album. Instead, Getting Better and Morning, or whatever the hell it's called, there instead. Which, if those 2 tracks would have been switched out with the singles, Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields Forever, this album would be an 11 out of 10. this album's already like a 9 to a 10 out of 10. But if those 2 tracks were added and not left out, then this would have been the easiest like 11 out of 10. No bullshit. Like that would have been crazy. I would have, bruh.
That's
I don't
goddamn
know. I would have
ass.
liked this album even more. But yeah, still a legendary album. Still a legendary album overall, and it still deserves its flowers. Now this shit, I'll get to it.
And then Magical Mystery Tour, which is kind of something left off of this, which is really fucking weird.
Yeah, why did I do that?
all live in a yellow submarine. This
Wrong album, bitch.
Like, seriously, I have no idea what this was about. And I didn't even want to know what this was about. But goddamn. This shit was weird.
Right?
I am the Eggman. I am
the walrus.
I don't even know. I have nothing to say about this album, but other than it was confusing.
I already know I'm gonna say some bullshit about this album, so I'm gonna just let it play, and I'm gonna just correct myself
something
later.
fell off. It sounded
'Cause,
off.
boy,
Like, the sounds, the songs just fell off. The track list was weird. But other than Hello Goodbye, which is a damn masterpiece. Hello Goodbye.
not really.
That was like one of the biggest highlights of that album.
Not really.
Magical Mr. I don't even know. I say this fucking C.
Wow, I didn't even talk about the damn
Like,
album.
this
I just
shit was
put it
weird.
right in. I just threw it right in the
I don't even
C
wanna talk
column.
about it.
Wow, that's fucked up. Nah, that's fucked up. Nah, see, I knew I was gonna be on some bullshit. All right, hold on. Let me actually do it as fair justice. So basically, they knew how popular, they knew how huge Sgt. Pepper was from a critical and commercial standpoint. So they decided, capitalize on that sound, but get even weirder with it, which only only made them kinda lose the plot, just slightly lose the plot a little bit, because this album is this is probably their weirdest album, if not the album I'm about to talk about next. It's basically Sgt. Pepper, but like the Night album, if anything. Like, even though like I Am the Walrus, Baby You're a Rich Man, some shit like fucking, what was it called? I said Hello Goodbye. Fool on the Hill. I still go back to those songs, but I just don't go back to this full album because I just don't know how to take it. I feel like I'm good on this album, It's basically your worst Sgt. Pepper, but I don't think it's a C. I think it's a B at most, and a C at least. But it's very teetering on those two.
Shit was weird. I don't even want to talk about it.
Like, I don't know what else to say.
The White Album. They
Right.
fully ditched their psychedelic sound.
The Caucasian
I feel like they
album.
only did twice. They should have done it more, because I wanted to hear more of that amazing psychedelicness, since they knew how to do it so well.
That's
Other
not
than
a
the
word.
Rolling Stones. Fucking Satanic Majesty's Request. Damn, that shit.
We're not talking about the Rolling Stones here, idiot. Come on.
And you
Chop, chop.
didn't even realize that cover, the album, the cover of that
Bro,
album's really
nobody gives a
awesome.
fuck. Who gives a fuck? Nobody cares, bro. Who cares?
So anyway,
Nobody asks.
like,
Get to
yeah.
the album. Holy shit.
The White
Damn.
Album, they went back to,
Nobody
it was a
cares.
goddamn
That was a
double
problem
album. I had
like
to listen to
50
this
some
for a
years
whole
ago.
fucking
Nobody
2
asked.
hours. Which I don't even think that was how long the
Album is
was,
not that
but I
bad.
listened to it for 2 hours.
Anyway.
Yeah. It's probably I think this is their longest album. They had a lot of songs in here. Dear Prudence, I say, was good on there. Obla
Right.
Di Obla Da. I was like,
uh,
alright, I can fuck with it.
No, that shit
And,
sucks ass.
I
You'll never see me you'll never ever see me defending Obla Di Obla Ga. What? Ooga booga. Bro, you're never gonna see me defend that song ever. Even if you have a fucking gun to my head, you'll never ever see me defending that song. That song is a mistake. It's a failed abortion. It should have never been released. It should have never left the studio. I refuse to believe that's a part of the Beatles catalog. Anyway.
No. Helter Skelter, yes. Helter Skelter, I say, was one of the best tracks on that album, and that really makes me want to go back to it right now. Also, Happiness is a Warm Gun is like the best track on the whole album.
It is,
don't at me.
true.
I might have to give it a re-listen, but nah.
True.
In the middle of the video, fuck it. I say fucking A. But nah, I ain't finished talking about it.
What the hell,
Sound,
bro?
you know?
Come on
They
now.
went
See, at
back-
this point of the fucking, at this point, I was just rushing. Like, bro, talk about the album.
to, you know,
Jesus Christ.
folk.
Yeah. It's not like you had that.
went back to more pop rock.
Like you had
I
that
don't
much
know
time to lose
why.
anyway. I was gonna watch this.
This album was sounded experimental, but it wasn't.
What the fuck did I just say? Hold up. See, I told you I was gonna bring on some bullshit. What did I just say?
It wasn't.
Hold up. Did I just say it wasn't experimental?
This
Am I
album
on
was-
dick?
Sounded experimental, but it wasn't.
Am I on dick? What am I bro? What am I talking about? It wasn't experimental. This is their most experimental album ever. Holy shit! How wrong could I possibly be? All right. There's no way you think Revolution 9. There's no way I think Revolution 9 and shit like Wild Honey Pie and Why Don't We Do It in the Road isn't experimental. Are you restarted? Are you dumb? Are you dumb? Are you a cock? Because what are we talking about here? Like this shit was probably the most off-kilter album they've released so far. Like, I don't know who the hell let John get away with putting Revolution 9 on this damn album, but boy, they need to be taken out back and shot because that should have never left the studio. Like, that's the thing. Okay, anyway, that's the thing. Like, this album is, if you take about all those, this album at least contains like about 30 tracks. Like, there's no way there's not going to be at least 1 ounce of filler in there. There's obvious filler in here. More filler than any of their fucking early 60s work combined. That's 30 tracks we're talking about. So, what I would oppose is maybe cut up the fat, the obvious fat, like Sexy Sadie. We don't need that. Wild Honey Pie. Really, Paul? Really? Cut the obvious fat. This is the only way to make this album better. Is cut the obvious fat like Sexy Sadie, Wild Honey Pie, Revolution 9. Especially when you already have a Revolution on the album. Why do you need another Revolution, John? We don't need 2 Revolutions. 1 was enough. What happened to Evolution? We don't need Revolution. We need Evolution. Anyway, Revolution 9, take that shit out. Burn it. Throw it in the ass. In the ass? Yeah. Throw it in the trash. Also take Don't Pass Me By in the trash. Sorry, Ringo, but it just had to be done. And there's probably more I'm thinking about, like, and just keep the obvious highlights on there. Because if you take all of the fat off of this album, this should be, like, the best Beatles album they've ever made. Like, some of the highlights on here, most of the highlights on here are some of the best shit the Beatles have ever made in their career. Ever. But it's often overshadowed by all their filler and all their mediocre moments, which is unfortunate because at the same time this album does offer classics like Happiness is a Warm Gun and Dear Prudence, like, and I Will and Back in the USSR and shit like that, you know, and Long Long Long. I feel like George specifically was the MVP of this album. Like, George alone, like, Happiness is a Warm Gun by itself wins, like, this whole album. Like, if you have that in the album, that means George is the MVP. But he also had Long Long Long, which is very underrated. Very underrated. I'm thinking of some more, but yeah, if you take about all the obvious perfect tracks in this album and cut out all of the fat into a sleek 16 track album, this is their best album. And that's what's so conflicting about it. This could be their best album if you ignore all the obvious filler. If you ignore all the obvious filler, this is better than Abbey Road. This is better than Revolver. This is better than Sgt. Pepper. Like, there's some huge highlights. Huge. Like, Martha, My Dear. Bluebird. Bruh, come on now. Come on. It's just unfortunate because I can't call this a masterpiece yet because of the filler and all the, you know, the garbage.
This album is
There's too much garbage in here. Like, it's too much.
It wasn't. A.
It's a mixed bag,
Nah,
unfortunately.
never mind. B.
Wait, did I put it at a B?
A. Nah, never mind. B.
I was about to say. Alright.
And here we go. Abbey motherfucking Road. Abbey Road. If you don't like Abbey Road, I don't like you as a person.
Based.
Cause this album,
Right?
shit. It was a great way. This is their last album they ever recorded. Let It Be is not even their last album. I would even recall this as their last album.
Bro, chill out.
I wouldn't call this their last album at all. I would say Abbey Road is the real end of the Beatles saga. Because goddamn, Here Comes the Sun, bitch. Come Together. Right when I thought George couldn't get any better, he comes out here with Here Comes the Sun. That
True.
goddamn, that awakened something in me. Besides, you know, this is the real end of the Beatles saga. I mean, like, for fuck's sake, their last track on the album was literally called The End. Like,
Right? Okay.
this is when they were really fed up with each other.
Okay.
This is when they were really fed up with each other when recording with each other, like the White Album.
Which I was about to touch on is like, yeah, it is the moment where they started, you know, getting sick of each other, which really impacted like the creative flow of everything that they've been building up these in this era. But they still, you know, were able to create such like perfect music by themselves.
Really,
But not
distancing
together, which
themselves
is where,
away from
you
each
know,
other. Like
don't
all
know.
four of them. Like fucking when John introduced Yoko. Oh no.
Oh,
Even though I wouldn't
no.
recall the real reason why they broke up. Anyway, back to Abbey Road. Fucking
Spoiler, it wasn't Yoko Ono.
yes.
Get over yourself.
Goddamn S tier. Fucking. Are you kidding me? Like, and in my opinion, there's so many tracks in here that I feel should have been longer, way longer than what they actually were. Like fucking Golden Slumbers,
True.
The End. Like for their
You can't name those two tracks and not mention Carry That Weight. Come on, me.
last song ever for their
it's a
last
fucking
song to
medley.
ever be recorded together, called The End. Obviously, that should have been much longer.
Actually, I'm wrong again. It's actually I Want You, She's So Heavy. That's the last song they ever recorded together as 4. God, I'm stupid.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't know until a couple weeks ago there's actually part of a melody where the 3 very shortest tracks on the album was, which is The End, Golden Slumbers, and Carry That Weight.
Why does my mic sound like complete ass balls?
It was all part of one big melody. It was all in one. It was just this one big song. That's why it's
See, that's why I put in all that text, and that's why I put all that text there, because you couldn't even fucking hear what I just said.
short.
Golden Slumbers, in my opinion, is the best. Like
I just
I'd
noticed
say that was the
that.
third best track on there. Another song's like Because, you know, that, which I heard they like. I wonder why they sounded, and I wonder why the harmony sounded, and I wonder why the harmony sounded so good. But apparently they triple tracked all three of. Apparently they
Slow down.
All three of them triple tracked their vocals. I said Ringo, of course. And
Bro,
made it
quit
sound like
yapping!
A lot more people in the room. It sounded way more full of a harmony than what it actually was, which made it even more forgiving. And the melodies they chose. Gotta thank John. And the
No,
goddamn
thank George.
bass line. For I Want You, She's So Heavy. Come on, listen to that right now. Bitch.
That's probably not even the same bass model. I just threw that in there.
S. That's all I'm saying. Their best. That album cannot be forgotten in history.
Wait, where did I just put it? Why did it look like I was about to put it in D?
That album
Oh,
cannot be forgotten in history.
I was about to say that was. Ooh, don't. Jesus Christ! I thought I was about to disrespect the fuck out of Let It Be, but I'll get to that later. Yeah, I basically agree with all that. Like, yeah, I think Abbey Road is like felt like the real like bookending to the Beatles saga. Like, it really felt like that album, and I feel like it's like the perfect album to introduce to like new fans just try to get into the Beatles if you're not trying to expose them to their like more experimental and ambitious stuff. It still has that quality to it to where you wouldn't even care. Like, it's way more stripped back, and it's almost like almost like a return to their roots a little bit, sorta, but not quite, because they still have a lot of solo tracks here. Like, I feel like George is the real MVP here. Like, George obviously again holds the best songs on here. Like, but at the same time, it's not just George, because it was kind of almost all of them. Like, I feel like this is the first album where all of them has had like one song we could take away as being one of the best Beatles songs ever, like including Ringo. Yes, Octopus's Garden is good, fight me. But like, George had something, and Here Comes the Sun and shit. John had I Want You, She's So Heavy and Come Together. Like, come on now. Paul had She Came In Through the Bathroom Window and the whole fucking medley section at the end of the album, and I believe he has something else. What was it? Well, at the same time he had Maxwell Silver Hammer, but we don't talk about that. But yeah, it really did feel like the Beatles giving it all they got of, giving it one last go around. Like, basically reminding you what they do best, but not trying too hard to prove themselves of something. Just laying back and just going with the flow. And it just turned into, catchy melodies. It turned into still very fairly experimental, like, moments. Like, they didn't let that go, but they made it a lot more accessible, and I feel like that worked to their benefit. Like, I don't feel like there's one very bad moment on this album. And it's probably their most cohesive album since Sgt. Pepper, if I were to guess. Like, it's just that album. It's like pretty much the perfect album. Like, I wouldn't argue with anybody who says it's their best album, because I'd say that too, even though I won't, but I wouldn't mind it, it really feels like the perfect Beatles album, like the definitive Beatles album, and that's why its legacy is so big. Like, come on now. I don't even remember what my favorite track is, but I think it's probably I Want You, She's So Heavy at this point. Like, that song has grown on me. Like, even the songs I didn't care for initially, they've grown on me with time. And that's the effect of this album, It was just the Beatles going out in a blaze of glory, basically.
That album cannot be forgotten in history.
Speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
This,
More like Let It Be.
let it
Anyway.
be. Fuck no. We ain't going there.
Alright, this is where I get controversial.
This is supposedly their end album. Their last album. But I won't even call this their last album, because it's not even the last album they recorded. This is their last album they ever recorded. And there's so much stuff that was off about this album. This doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like the Beatles. Like Dig a Pony. Ew.
I like Dig a Pony now. I just had to re-listen to it.
One After 99. That was a track I liked, though. But I would say D. That was
Wow, what?
confusing and off. And then
Am I dumb?
No. So that was apparently it.
Damn,
Really?
D? No, don't end the video like that. Nah, where's some shit we got to discuss, motherfucker? Hold on, D? Nah, D? See, I was on some crack right there. I was off that fentanyl. Only a fentanyl head would come up with that fucking opinion right there. I could explain. First of all, Wow. That was probably the shortest I've ever discussed an album on this whole video. Like, I've only taken, like, barely even a minute, and I already put it in a fucking D. Anyway, now that I've actually listened to the album in full, no other outside opinions, no other, like, no more guessing and shit, like, what was good and what's not. It's a decent album. It doesn't feel, it feels weird being, like, the last Beatles album, necessarily. Because I feel like it doesn't really feel like the book ending to the Beatles' whole legacy like Abbey Road was. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have some shit like. At the same time, you can't deny the title track, and you can't deny the power of, you know, of shit like Dig a Pony, and even the ballads like Long and Winding Road, which. Those songs, there's a lot of songs here that grew on me. There's a lot that grew on me. And if I would, like, now to say anything, I know is the most controversial part of this whole thing is the Phil Spector, the murderer. But Phil Spector's input on this album being a little hit or miss, which is why they came out with that little, you know, the naked version without Phil Spector's, you know, wall of sound approach to this album, which I could see why it's hit or miss with some people, but it's not really a hit or miss for me. In fact, it does work on some tracks, like Long and Winding Road. I like that more than the naked version. Like, there's some tracks where it works, but there's some tracks where it doesn't really work, like Across the Universe. I like the naked version a little more. Like, and I think that's what makes this even better for me, and why I disagree with this D, because, you know, it does. I feel like the naked version does help, like, a little bit more with the perspective of things, of how this album was originally supposed to go, until they met Phil Spector. Because I believe George Martin wasn't here for this. Or maybe he was, I don't know. They just added Phil Spector in there because they could. And he fucking murdered that production. That's not the only thing he murdered. He murdered my cooch. Anyway, but yeah, it's like, it's definitely not a D. It's at least a C or a B. I might have to go with a C. Do I? I don't know. But I feel like they left out so many, like, I feel like this felt more like the Back to Their Roots album more than Abbey Road was. Just in the fact that they just played it, they stripped it back just a tad bit more. Like, they almost went back to their, you know, rockabilly roots from the early material, like, almost from the Quarrymen. And that was the main concept behind this, and it's some good shit in there. There's some good decent cuts like in there, you know. It's like it's not ambitious or nowhere near as ambitious, but it's like it's not trying to be. It's like it's just there to be like it's a good old jam session with the bros, with the homies. I got that whole vibe. That's the vibe I got, you know. And so yeah, I don't know. It just feels. Yeah, it still feels weird being the last supposed Beatles album, even though they already disbanded pretty much before this came out. But it's not that bad, like, to be real. It's just, you know, I don't know. I'm tripping. Cause there's some shit on there. Like, you can't, like, come on now, Dig a Pony. That's some good shit. Wait, is Don't Let Me Down on this album? Like, I feel like everything surrounding it, I feel like everything surrounding it, like the rooftop concert also happened at this time. You know, the rooftop concert, the documentary or the film, you know, that came out way later, like last year or something, which showed the entire recording process of things. You know, it really did put this album in a different perspective for me, and really made me think about it more, you know, overall, than what it actually was, which I could say with it. It's just, I could vibe with it, you know. It's not crazy or nothing, but I could vibe with it. So I'd say a C or a light B. It's not no fucking D.
So
all right, it's just not.
It. The Beatles
What the
have
hell
a
am I
really nice
talking about?
discography, and I really hope you check out every single one of their albums. That's it, you know. Fuck it.
Yeah, okay, it's not as bad as I thought it would be, but like, yeah, there's except the last one. I feel like once it got to the last opinion, like on Let It Be, that's where it got a little dicey. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, that's all I gotta say.